Hey, Dad, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, good. I wanted to
Good.
have you here at the our new facility to discuss a
Boy.
little bit about all that you've created here and how it got started.
Yeah.
So tell me about it from
Got
50,
started-
52 years ago now, right?
Well, 52 years ago, yeah. I was running a restaurant. After I quit working as a restaurant equipment person for 17 years, I went in the restaurant business. I seen how all these restaurants were making big money. I figured I'll get a piece of it, but it didn't work that way.
Running a restaurant isn't as easy as
No,
people
it's
think,
not.
is it?
No, it's not 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, you got to work a lot. But I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the bar business, did very well in the bar business, but it wasn't really, I missed meeting my customers and talking to them and having a good time with them. And we did have some good times.
So you were 17 years at a restaurant equipment and supply company, just like Gerharz equipment, essentially, right?
Very similar to it.
So how old were you when you started working there?
I started working when I was 16 for them.
Really? You were still in high school?
Yeah, I was still in high school at that time, and I worked part-time, you know, doing whatever had to be done, sweeping the floors, putting the stock away, that type of work.
How'd you even get that job? Like most 16-year-olds don't think about the pot and pan
Well,
company.
the way it started, I was in a technical school, and I took the printing course, and offset presses were just coming in. And the guy I worked for, the guy that hired me, the restaurant supply that hired me, he bought an offset press at an auction. So, and he didn't know how to work it. Very few people knew how to work it. So he went to the school I was in and wanted to know if there was anyone there that could do an offset. Well, I could. I was pretty good at it. And I went to work for him, putting out circulars and that type of stuff.
Oh, wow.
But that wasn't a full-time job. So he got me the rest of the time doing the odd jobs, sweeping the floor, whatever had to be done. Delivered equipment like Dave's doing now, and whatever had to be done. And that's how I learned the business. I learned it good, and I got into sales, and I met a lot of great customers, and one of them was a good customer of mine. When I did 4 restaurants for him while I was working for the other guy, and when I left him, this guy got mad at the guy I was working for because he thought I quit for a reason, and he stopped doing business with him. And he came to me when I had the restaurant, and he said, "Dick, will you do me a favor?" I said, "Well, sure, Ray, what can I do?" He goes, you did all my restaurants, never had a problem. When you left, I went to another dealer, and I had nothing but headaches, nothing but problems. The drawings weren't good. I used to do all my own drawings in them days. Not like they do now, but they were good in them days. So he came to me and asked me to do his drawing for his new restaurant he was opening. So I said, "Well, Ray, as long as you're not in a hurry," I'm working here 12, 15 hours a day, and that's what the restaurant business is. And so I did it, and I did it, got it done, called him up, told him I got your drawing done. He came right down to my restaurant. I said, "Here, Ray, here's the drawing." He goes, "Okay, I'll look it over and I'll get back to you." He called me a couple of days later. He said, "Dick, can I meet with you this morning?" I go, "Sure, Ray. He used to come in all the time anyways to see me." I go, "Sure, Ray, I'm here." And he came in, and he drew it. I give him the drawing, and he said, "Oh, well, let me look it over." And he came back the next day, and he says, everything was good. And he threw an envelope on the bar. I thought he probably bought me a gift certificate or something for doing the drawing. And there was a note and a check, signed check with no amount in it, and a note. Here, fill in the amount. I'll be back in 2 months. Have the restaurant ready. And he ran out the door. So I called his son. I said, "What, your father's crazy or what?" He said, "No, he said that you're going to do that job in Liverpool." It was, and I said, "I'm not. I can't. I can't just buy this stuff."
So you thought you were just doing the drawing for him?
Yeah, I was going as a favor. I was doing it
okay.
as a favor. So next thing I knew, I didn't know what to do. So I said, "Geez, I can't let the guy down." So I went and met people I knew in the industry, good people that trusted me and knew me, and they said, "Sure, Dick, we'll help you." So I did it. Job came out great, and that was the start of it. Then
so you're buying the equipment from other dealers in town?
I was buying from other dealers. Some factories were selling me, not many, but some, that ones that knew me pretty good. So that's how I got in it.
Wow, that's a pretty...
I sold the bar and got into the equipment business. And
so you ran the bar and the equipment business together for a stretch, right?
Well, as sort of. You know, I was still, the bar was taking up most of my time, and it was my livelihood at that time. But I started getting calls from other customers. "Dick, I hear you're back in business. Geez, I'm opening a new pizza shop here," and I did that. And then I did another job for another guy, and then little by little, I was in the equipment business.
Well, where were you running the business? Out of the back room of the bar or at home?
I was out running out of the garage at the house.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky I had good neighbors. Tractor trailer would pull up and unload 50 cartons of chairs on my front lawn. And
they would just leave it there? Or like you had to receive it?
When I got back, I would put it in the garage until
But they would just leave it? You didn't have to be there to receive it and sign for the bill of lading and things like that?
No.
Things were much more trustworthy back then, weren't they?
Yeah. And was the start of it.
Yeah. Did the neighbors ever complain?
No.
They didn't?
Maybe under their breath, but they didn't complain to me. So that's...
So you weren't planning on, if Ray Moran didn't come there and give you a blank check and say, "Open my restaurant"? Would you have still been a restaurant owner?
In the bar business.
Yeah.
Which was, I liked it, but it was a lot of hours.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't like about it. But we did very well in it.
Yeah.
And
Mom was the waitress.
Was a waitress, yeah.
Yeah.
She was a waitress. I was the bartender. We had a cook and a couple part-time waitresses on weekends, and that was it.
That was the first time Mom worked with you?
Yeah.
And then after that, you guys have been together, together every minute?
Ever since, yeah.
Yeah, so she became the administrative assistant, the secretary, the accountant, everything for you out of the basement?
Right, when I was working out of my basement with the equipment. Then I got into the Coca-Cola business.
How did you get into the Coca-Cola business?
Well, I was going to one of my customers that had a bar. I stopped in to see him, and he goes, "Hey, Dick, I want you to meet this guy out here. He's trying to sell me a soda gun. I got to rent it, and he's going to save me $50 a week on the syrup." And I go, "Geez, that sounds like a good deal." So he goes, "Come on, let's talk to him." So we went out and talked to him. We hit up a little bit of a friendship, and he goes, "Dick," he goes, he was from Ogdensburg, and he goes, "I don't want to drive to Syracuse to deliver Coke. Why don't you I'll fix you up with Coca-Cola, and you take over this area." So I did.
So he was a Coca-Cola distributor up in Ogdensburg area?
No, he was just like a dealer, not a distributor. So then I took it over, and the syrup was just starting to come into its own.
What did they have before syrup?
What they called premix.
Oh, gotcha.
And you were buying water. So this guy invented a soda gun, so he could do it right there in front of the customers behind the bar or wherever it was. And so he got me into the Coke business.
Did they investigate you? Like, how did they decide that you were worthy of being a Coca-Cola distributor?
No, they took this other guy's word for it, and it worked out well. And then it got so big, and it was so good, I sort of got out of the restaurant equipment business, only part-time, and I was doing Coke all the time.
What year was that?
Oh, geez, 1950.
That was the early 70s, right?
Or early 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had actually sold Gerharz equipment.
Then I sold Gerharz equipment.
To concentrate on the Coca-Cola distribution.
Yep. And the guys I sold it to run it down the tubes.
Pretty quickly.
Very quickly. Guy was not too smart. So that's how I got back into the equipment business. I had a channel on everything, but they were paying me off monthly.
So you were holding the paper on the purchase price?
So I had to take it back. I had to even buy my own truck back.
Really?
Yeah, buy one truck.
Well, why would you have to buy it back?
Because the bank gave them the money for it.
Ah.
And they channeled the truck unbeknown to me. So I had to pay them to get the truck back.
Wow.
And my whatever I had, and I got it all back. Took it, paid it some time, paid it all off, and then I started expanding the restaurant business.
While you were doing the Coca-Cola business?
I was doing the Coke, and the Coke was booming as it was, and then the equipment business started booming, and I always liked the equipment business, so I had a choice, either keep the Coke or go back into the restaurant equipment. So I went into the restaurant equipment, and now I had to do bigger jobs and more of them, and I met a lot of great customers, and I always got along great with my customers, and they would tell another friend of theirs that this guy's honest and he'll take good care of you, and then I just grew from there.
Yeah, sometimes I look back, that we're still, some vendors have us listed as Dick Gerharz syrup distributors, because exactly. the owner that you sold to drove the business essentially out of business.
Right.
And that vendor, I think Bunn might be one of them, Cecilware, there's about a half dozen of them that you've been doing business with since the early 70s. Yeah. That still billed to Dick Gerharz syrup distributors because Gerharz equipment didn't have any credit any longer.
No.
So that's pretty good that you started a business. Well, you started the bar, then you started a restaurant equipment business, then you started a soda distribution business, sold your restaurant equipment business goes less than zero, and then you take it back and build it up to where we are
so
today.
I built it twice.
Yeah, and it's much more difficult to build it from a bankrupt position than from scratch, I would think.
It was a lot tougher the second time.
What did you have to do to dig out of that hole?
I had a lot of friends in the business, and I met most of the factory reps, and we got along great, and they did things they shouldn't have done because they opened me up as a dealer, and I had to prove I was a dealer.
Yeah, right.
So that was the hard part, but it worked, and I worked hard at it and built it up, and now you're taking it over and you're doing a good job, and hopefully it'll grow more and more and more, which I see a lot of growth.
Yeah, it's really crazy where we are today from even just 10 years ago. It's fantastic, but I think we built it upon what you kind of like your moral compass is still here every day. What was the secret in '69? Like, that was hard work, and then you grew and you got more employees. Like, what is the main thing that you can kind of base this success on? Obviously there was the hard work, but a lot of people work hard and don't make it. What was special about what you did and what your teammates did?
Trying to treat my customers like friends, which I always did. I always said I don't have any customers, but I got a lot of friends, and that's my philosophy. And by doing that, that's what grew the industry. But to this day, most of my customers are my friends.
Yeah. I know this past year while we've kind of been stuck in a house during the pandemic, they've all been calling you.
Yeah, they all still call me, Dick, how you doing? Like I say, they're a friend, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is great.
Yeah.
It is great. You, one of the things that I kind of learned from you is don't worry about obviously profitability matters, but taking care of the customer, making sure the customer's got everything right, making sure it's easy for the customer, making sure that the customer succeeds. The profitability, just charge a fair price for what you're doing, and the success will follow if you're treating your customers properly.
Right.
Don't try to overcharge and make extra money on this. Just treat people fairly.
Right.
You've never had to market. That offset press that Spiro Restaurant Supply had in the 50s was more marketing than you ever did until now. Like this, now that we're doing digital stuff, but until then we haven't had to do a thing.
No, I had a lot of good customers, and they told their friends, and the business just grew by leaps and bounds, and so I started hiring people. I hired Dave, which is still with me. He was my first employee.
First ever?
Well, Dingman was my first. He was delivering Coke. Yeah. And I had a couple guys delivering Coke, but then
But they were kind of like part-timer kind of guys.
Yeah, they were part-time guys.
So Dave was your first guy.
He was the first guy that was really on my payroll in the equipment business. And Dave is still with me and still doing a good job.
It's awesome. That's a testament to what you started there, just to have your original employees still with you from 50 plus years ago.
I treated my employees the same way I treat my customers. They're my friends.
Treat them fairly.
And treat them fair and do the right thing by them. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And I hope you do the same thing.
Absolutely. I don't care if it's 5 employees, 50 employees, or 500 employees. We're going to use the same philosophy. No one's going to be a number at Gerharz Equipment. I don't care how many employees we get. So in '69, I remember you telling me this story, how you were still at the schoolroom, the name of your tavern, which is pretty cool. You were a concept place before concept places were happening.
It was an original one-room schoolhouse, and we kept a motif. We had a dunce stool.
Was it Was it a schoolhouse and then it went to your tavern? Was it anything in between? Wasn't a restaurant in between?
Nothing in between.
So it went straight from a schoolhouse to
a bar.
The old schoolroom bar and tavern and grill. Oh, that's pretty neat.
That type of bar was getting popular, and I was involved. There was a small chain called the Poorhouses, and they were friends of mine also, as they were customers, and he wanted me to become his partner, and I wasn't ready for that, so, which was a big mistake.
He wanted to be your partner when you were at Restaurant Supply Company?
No, yeah, right. When I was doing his place, what happened, he had a partner, and the partner backed out the last minute, and he didn't have the money to pay me, so he said, Dick, why don't you become my partner? And I said, I was just married, basically, and I knew Jack real well, and he was a dynamite guy, let me tell you. And I said, Jack, that's all I need. I just got married. I'll be divorced in a year. Oh, no. Baloney.
Well, thank you for not getting divorced before I was born.
That's right.
I appreciate that. That's a good thing. I'm glad that you had that foresight.
Right.
But I remember you telling me a story about how our family vehicle was your delivery truck, right?
Exactly.
Didn't you have one of those like half car, half truck kind of things?
Right.
What do you call those?
A Ford Ranchero.
A Ranchero.
Which I wish I had today.
Yeah, you like the
worth
Ranchero.
some money.
Yeah. Yours was pretty beat up from the bed was pretty crooked from the soda cans and the pizza ovens.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that would be in mint condition.
Yeah.
But you drove around with this Ranchero.
Right.
And didn't you tell me that you picked up somebody's used pizza oven and you didn't know what to do with it?
Yeah.
And you dumped it at the used equipment guy's place?
Yeah, Paulie Bravo's.
Yeah.
Which everybody must know Paulie Bravo's.
Syracuse Restaurant Exchange,
Yeah,
right?
he was a used restaurant equipment guy who also was a friend of mine. And he used to send his customers to me for new stuff, and I would send my customers to him for used equipment.
Makes
So we became very good friends, and we worked together. And I worked with every restaurant equipment house in this town at that time. And they were all very good to me. I gotta admit, they didn't treat me like a competitor. They treated me like a friend. And that's the way I want to do business.
No, that's what happens when you treat people nicely,
Well,
right? Catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. But to continue your Paul Bravo story, someone bought a new pizza oven from you, and you used to deliver this stuff like by yourself, right?
Well, I would go and get day labor.
Okay.
In them days, they'd be standing on the corner downtown. There was an unemployment office there, and they'd be standing there. You go there, hey, come on over.
You got to choose who it was? Like, were they in line or something?
Right.
Okay.
You would have your pick of maybe 8 guys, 9 guys.
Okay.
One guy shaved and the other guys didn't. And so I tried to pick one that looked like he was decent.
Okay.
And they were. Some of them were very good.
So you had a day laborer and you delivered the pizza oven.
Oh, yeah.
And then you picked up the used one.
Oh, yeah. And I take it to Paulie and he
You didn't know what to do with it.
No, he sell it and, you give me a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And everyone that knew Paulie will understand that.
Yeah, he was a character.
He was a character.
Yeah.
He was a character.
You had told me the one story where you thought the pizza oven was an absolute piece of junk.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't know what to do with it. I'm just going to dump it on the sidewalk in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
And
right.
Paul Bravos calls you the next morning
Right.
and says, and when he called, you were like, oh boy, he's going to yell at me for dumping that piece of junk on that thing. And he says to you, hey, Dick, did you dump that pizza oven on my
I
sidewalk?
said, no, Paulie, I wouldn't do that. And he goes, you're the only guy I know that would do that. I goes, yeah, I did, Paul. He goes, well, come on down. I got a couple $100 for you. I sold it last night. So it was my relationship with these guys.
He sold it almost immediately, the piece of junk that you dropped on the sidewalk.
And I was happy to get it off my truck.
I think that's
Because I had to go to church that Sunday with my truck. And I didn't want the pizza oven on there.
Oh, that's funny. I think that's cool, the relationship you have with these guys. Because when you started Gerharz Equipment in '69, there was like 5 or 6 other strong established restaurant equipment dealers in this city.
Old-time outfits, yeah.
Yeah, they had already been in business 30, 40 years.
Oh, yeah, every one of them.
Right.
And unfortunately, I ended up being the only one left.
Last man standing.
Yeah, last man standing.
So it must have been kind of a pretty cool moment for you when, fast forward, 2017, so what's that, something like 47 years later, something along those lines, you bought Central Restaurant Supply, right?
I bought Central, who also were my friends.
Mm-hmm. They helped you get started.
They helped me get started. They were one of the first to help me. Because they were legitimate. They had a name and good name, and they gave me a good word for the factories and the other dealers. And then there was Smith Restaurant Supply, there was Syracuse Restaurant Supply, there was Onondaga Store Fixtures, Johnson Restaurant Supply, and
Syracuse Restaurant Exchange, City. Wasn't there a City Restaurant Supply?
Well, City had Joe Schiavatti. He was a break-off from Central.
From Central, yeah.
And I thought he was my friend, but he turned out to not be my friend.
Sometimes our competitors aren't so nice.
Yeah. So, but he still was a friend. So
yeah, you still treated him decently.
I treated him right, and he treated me, but it was not a good relationship I had with the other dealers.
You had someone spin off, like our big salesman Larry
yeah.
back in the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
Was it the mid-'70s? Might have even been in the '80s. And then he spun off and was going to start another company.
I thought he was crazy, and I went to lunch with him, and I said, Larry, are you sure you know what you're doing here? He goes, Nick, I do everything now but write the checks. I said, that's the hard part, Larry.
Yeah.
You got to pay these people.
Paying the bills isn't so
Paying
easy.
the bills.
Right.
Which all customers, restaurant customers know that's the toughest part of the industry.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know if you're going
All
to
business owners know it. Yeah.
But restaurants, you don't know if you're going to have a good week or a bad week, and the mortgage payments due, and you got to get it somehow. So.
But you maintain a good relationship with him too. He went off. The restaurant equipment supply company didn't work out great, but he became an installer later on for you.
He installed my beer systems because he was good at it and he knew what he was doing. And there's not many people that know beer systems other than my man over here, who I taught. So.
Yeah, so another example, you treat people nicely.
Oh, yeah.
And they remember it,
yeah.
and they in turn treat you nicely.
I think so.
Do unto others.
I think so. I was always treated good, and I always enjoyed my customers.
So in '69, when Central was a 30-year-old established company and they were helping you get started, did you ever think that you would own them later on?
Never.
They would have
never, because they were very well run, very prosperous, and they did a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got nothing but respect for them to this day.
Oh yeah, they did. They were still well run and successful when we purchased them.
Absolutely.
You know, and now they've integrated really well with us.
And when they thought of selling, they approached me immediately.
That's exactly right.
You know, and they trusted me like I trusted them.
Yeah. They were the second generation guys who were the sons of the two brothers who you did business with.
Right.
And they said, I remember when we first met them, they were like, well, we didn't really want to sell to the guy across town, but if it was anyone other than Dick Gerharz, we probably wouldn't have sold. So again, another example of, you know, people wanting to do business with you.
Exactly. So what I felt, treat people right and they'll treat you right.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to treat our customers right and they'll treat us right.
Yeah, that's a great strategy for sure. So we've mentioned Dave a few times.
Yeah.
He's been our oldest employee, our longest term employee. I guess he'd be our oldest employee too. Okay. David, welcome to our little coffee session we're having here.
Coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Which normally you bring the coffee. I figured you would have it. Right. You're notorious for a lot of coffee drinking.
Yes.
After, let's see, so how long have you been with Gerharz Equipment?
Well, I started in the fall of '75.
Wow.
6 years after Dick started the business out of his garage.
Fall of '75.
Yep.
So my father was just saying that you were his first full-time employee.
Yep.
So how did it come about? Did he have an ad in the paper or something?
I moved back from Colorado. My stepfather, who grew up with your father, was working for him part-time. And at the time, he was buying whiskey barrels and wine barrels, and we're making tables using maple tops, and we're making cross pedestals and using barrels and making barrel tables.
For Gerharz Equipment?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't think
we were doing that at the loading dock.
We were selling a lot of them.
Yeah, we sold
So you were into manufacturing tables? I didn't even know this.
I do anything to make a buck.
Anything to keep the lights on?
Yeah, keep the lights on. Well, it started out with the poorhouses. That was their motif. Was beer barrels and whiskey barrels, and it was a very good concept, really was. And we came up with an idea for the table bases. We made them out of barrels, and then we made the bar height tables out of barrels. And they became very popular. We were selling them in a lot of bars. And
so you sold them to people other than the poorhouse?
after they were going downhill,
Okay.
people came to me, gee, where did the poorhouse get them? I said, we made them for her. I said, Dave, tell them about it. So Dave would show them what we could do, and we ended up selling a lot of barrel tables.
Oh, you should have kept into the manufacturing
Should've,
business.
yeah.
What happened? Just tapered off?
Well,
or-
that concept kind of fell down.
Yeah, the rustic.
Yeah, the rustic look.
Where'd you get the barrels?
A guy, Baraducci Barrel Works, out of, where were they? Scranton?
There was a local guy too, but that's where we got the most of them.
Well, we bought them right from the barrel
Yeah,
guy.
exactly.
So
Baraducci.
you would travel down to Pennsylvania and pick them
No,
up?
he
or-
shipped the barrels to us.
So he built barrels, or these were left
They
over
were,
from?
he dealt in barrels, and bourbon can only be used once in a barrel. What the barrels can never be used again.
Okay.
So we would get the bourbon barrels right from the bourbon, and they would smell like a bourbon.
Did they smell? They smell like
In
bourbon?
fact,
You popped the cork out of them.
the poorhouse.
really?
We bought barrel furniture for the poorhouse that was made from barrels. And when we opened a new poorhouse, it took a couple of weeks to get rid of the bourbon smell.
That's fine. Well, goes well with the poorhouse. I
Yeah,
think bourbon smell didn't
absolutely.
hurt their reputation too much.
No, it was good.
Yeah. So David, you were building the furniture.
We were in the loading dock.
So your stepfather was there, and he said, "Hey, boy, come on in and."
Yeah, he was looking for a job. He talked to Dick, and Dick said, "Bring him in. He can help you with the furniture." And that's where I started,
Wow.
and it just moved from there.
Wow. So no interview and no lengthy.
No.
Good thing there were no background checks on you at the time.
Yeah, this is a good
No
thing.
drug testing or anything like that. Being the free swinging hippie you were
Yeah,
from.
consider where I came from. Yeah, exactly. But
So you started out doing
I
the
came to him
furniture?
straight and narrow, and I was looking for a job, and then it worked out real well. Started out working real well, and then Dick sold the business, and we actually.
How soon after you started did
I think it was 2 years after I started with him that he sold the business.
So you were doing more than just furniture.
Yeah, we
barrel
were
furniture
just
making.
exactly. It's just when he was getting into the business, we'll say, and we were at that time not just the equipment, but a lot of small wares, or a ton of small wares. We were doing bars left and right, so we had all the stuff for bars, all the glassware, ashtrays, all the favors, your olives, your cherries, your onions. All of that needed for bars. We had all that in the building.
Where
So,
did you get that stuff?
buying it? I mean, he had obviously dealers, distributors we were getting it from that were buying by the case lots.
So you had a vendor that sold you like martini onions and things like that?
Well, as we found out where to buy it direct, we were big enough where now we could start buying direct.
So you bought direct from the food maker?
From the, I don't know what he was, but all he sold was onions and cherries and
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And we got to know about him, so we could buy them cheaper from him
Perfect.
and pass it on to our customers.
Right? Well, that's one of the reasons you kept getting more
That's
customers.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't try to keep everything for us. We wanted to help our customers too.
Yeah. Philosophies worked out well for you.
Yes, they did.
So David, you went from the barrel making to like just general
General work,
delivery,
yeah, whatever had to get
installation.
done. Again, like when your dad started, whatever he needed to get done, we did. Whatever deliveries were meant to be done, we had to, we did. If it meant cleaning the building, we cleaned it. You know, he was a great one that he always kept saying that whenever we had the building, get it out on the floor, get it out there and display it. You can't sell it if it's hiding in the corner. So we're always getting stuff on the floor, even though we had a very small building. At that point, we were over in Albion Ave.
Is that where you started?
That's where I started. And we're on Albion Ave, and at that time, the building was, I think a 6,000 square foot building with offices. So you can imagine, at that, we were also by hand unloading a trailer of Coke a week off a trailer onto the loading dock and figuring out where we're going to stack all this
You
syrup.
didn't have a tow motor?
Not at first, no. We were doing it with a pallet truck. He found this big wooden ramp that would go up to the back of the trailer. And that's how we unloaded these double-stacked canisters of Coke. They were double-stacked on a skid. I think there were 20 tanks to a skid. And the only thing keep on the skin and keep them upright was one plastic band they banded the tanks with. And if it fell, it was a mess.
And that ramp had to be pretty flush with the gate.
Yeah, it was a bear. But
I can imagine when we pulled the pallet jack out, it would be whoa. Right?
It was. You could double stack, and they would wobble, and if they fell over, you had Coke forever.
Yeah, I never saw one of those. Did you actually have a spill?
The worst part of it is with Coke itself. There's so much sugar in it. Trying to clean it up is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, the wintertime was better because the wintertime you go out and get a shovel full of snow, throw it on there, and shovel it up. But freeze the Coke and get rid of it that way. But it was a nightmare. But that's how things started. That's where we were. That's how it progressed. And again, as the Coke business progressed out of there, again, it was national accounts from there. We did nothing but we had 2 secretaries, 5 days a week. They just handled national accounts. We get the bills
billing
it.
We didn't deliver the soda, but we billed out for the soda.
For all the national accounts. You're talking about bowling alleys, theaters, etc. Even though we were delivering local theaters, local bowling alleys, local bars, you name it. It went hand in hand with, at the time when he met Frank Kosh, the Felsco Soda Systems, which was the soda gun. And that turned into a big business as well.
Then we got into the CO2 business.
Right.
Because our customers had to have CO2 for the Coke.
Right.
So were you selling soda guns?
No,
or you were just getting business for Frank?
Right. I would recommend Frank. And Frank would go and talk to the customer, and then he'd get them, and then he'd tell them to buy the Coke off me.
I like the story you told about Frank with the vacuum cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how'd that go again?
Well, he rented these systems.
They were like the bar guns like we see today, like the Wonder Bar?
Yeah, he rented them. And he hired a guy because he got to the point where he couldn't do it himself anymore because the volume was getting too big. So he hired this guy and he bought a vacuum cleaner. And he got one that made a lot of noise. And he would tell him now once a month go in there with that vacuum cleaner and make the noise. The customer's going to bitch, but he's going to remember, hey, that guy, he's here every week. Yeah, he's worth $30 a week or whatever it was to rent the system. I think a month, $30 a month. He could remember when a guy was under the bar with that vacuum cleaner.
He's making a lot of noise down there. Must be doing
Just
something.
made a lot of noise.
That's pretty good. That's marketing for you,
right? That was marketing.
Yeah, that's funny. So you started to say that he sold the business a couple years after you had started.
After I started, and your dad brought myself and I had one of the guys working with us at the time. We were over to the old Motel 7.
Truck stop over there.
And we sat there and had lunch, and he told me what he was doing, and he said, "Don't worry, that the guys that he sold to were going to keep me on." And I said, "Okay." I mean, if that's what he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do. And it worked I think it worked out for about 6 months. It didn't work out well. The people that bought it, they're not fond of your father. To put it lightly.
Why?
They didn't know what they were doing, so not knowing what they were doing, they had to find a reason for making it look like because they didn't know what they were doing, they tried to make it like he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
They make it look like because he didn't know, they bought into a lemon, so to speak.
Oh, goodness.
All right, so when basically what it was, your father was smarter than those two put together. And they didn't realize it. So it wasn't a very short time after that he got it back. And it was on a whim that I actually found out that he got it back. I was working for a cabinet company.
So you left that company?
Yeah, they fired me. This is, just so you know, this is the only job that I walked into and pretty much got a job without even filling out an application.
Right.
And got fired from and then rehired.
It's kind of, so what a team you two are, right? Those guys destroy the business. You take it back, you get your original employee, and you guys build it back up again. That's pretty amazing. Good for you. Yeah. But then why'd they fire you? They didn't think you were a good worker?
They fired me because of my relationships with Al and Rich and Bill.
The guys at Central Restaurant
Central
Supply?
Restaurant. Yep.
Well, why would they fire you for having that
Well,
relationship?
back in the day when the relationship your dad had and me working for him we had was we'd go down and pick our supplies up that we needed that we didn't have. And we'd walk in, we'd pull our order, and we'd fill out the order form and leave it on the counter, just to sign our name to it. And the relationship was at that point where they felt that they can trust us to go in, take what we needed, fill it out properly, and then bill us for it. So what they wanted me to do was go down, because of my relationship with Al and whatnot, write down pricing on what they're selling their small wares for,
Yeah,
so they could compete with them, and I refused.
right.
I said, I'm
Here
not.
they are trying to help you out, and then they're trying to kind of
Yeah.
stab them a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit.
they wanted to use me as a means to get the information to sell the product for it, undercut them,
Yeah,
and use my relationship with them. And I said I wasn't going to do that, so they fired me because I wasn't a team player. And I said, well, that's fine, because it's a team I don't want to be on.
yeah, right, I agree.
You know? So that ended that relationship. And then
Where did you go to work?
I
Yeah,
worked for Midstate Wholesale, which was a cabinet and countertop company where I drove truck for, made countertops for homes that were up and started, like the Orion homes, et cetera, all over the state, actually. I did that for a year. There was a place called Goodall Rubber that left the building I was working in, 6,000 square foot warehouse. I called your father, said, listen, Dick, I know you've been looking for a building. This just got empty. It's right down the road from your house. He goes, no, don't worry, Dave. I get my building back and my business back. I said, great. And he goes, well, keep calling me. We'll figure it out. And then when I get back on my feet, we'll see what we can do.
so who were you using as a employee? You were back to doing everything by yourself again?
Everything myself.
Yeah.
Delivering
Yeah,
ovens and,
4 day labor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's how I met Dingman.
Yeah.
He was a day laborer. He was a good worker, but he was a little mixed up.
Yeah, I remember him. So the stories I remember from David is when we did, so I must have been 8, 9 years old, and we had those tanks of soda, 5-gallon post-mix syrup. We had to decompress them.
Decompress them.
So we had this little tool to put on the in or the out spout on the 5-gallon tanks to get the rest of the syrup out. So we would bring the tanks back from the bar or the restaurant, and we'd have Sprite or we'd have Coca-Cola, and you would do this thing, and the syrup would come out and literally like blow syrup up in your face. Our hair looked like it was all moosed up, and the bees would come and attack us. It was like the worst job in the world, and it seemed like you always saved it for me when I would come in after on an academic break or something. That was crazy. That was a strange job.
It was
wasn't
a strange job and decompress all the tanks, but we got paid well for it. You know, we got paid at those days. Every skid of soda we sent back, we got paid $75 for.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I should have been getting a cut of that.
So that's why we always had those stacks of tanks and the pallets on the dock when we finally got over at Collimer Drive.
Yeah.
It's really picked up. You know, we were really ramped up by that point, and that and the equipment business.
So tell me how many places did you? So you started out in your house, which was like 1,100 square foot ranch in Liverpool.
Then I rented a 2-car garage on Wolf Street.
Okay.
There, I ran out of space there, so then they had an upstairs. I rented that, and for a warehouse. And that I got too big there. I rented the old ice cream factory on North State Street, and that was it was the upper floor. So we had an elevator. We had to take everything upstairs on the elevator or bring it down, and we get tractor trailers of coke, and we have to unload them, and take them upstairs and take them downstairs and deliver. Then we bought the building on Albion Ave. And read everything out of there, which was a nice building, a good location, and ran out of space there, and that's when we bought the column. Well, no, then we rented another building in East Syracuse, and we turned it into a little storefront
On Manlius Street.
on Manlius Street.
But we had Collimer first.
Well, we
Right,
had them
and-
both together.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
and
we
then
ran
you-
out of space on Collimer,
Right,
so
and
I
got
bought
Manley
that
Street.
building, and then they got too small, and that's when we bought the big building,
Malloy,
Malloy Road, right?
right, which we still own,
which we still own.
30,000 square feet. So you went from like 50 square feet to a few hundred square feet to like
You
400
got
square
it.
feet to like 5,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet to
You got it.
an additional building in Manley Street, which was like 4,000 square
Yeah,
feet to
probably more than that.
Malloy was, yeah, probably like 5, 6. That was the old East Syracuse Chevrolet.
Yeah, it was a Chevrolet,
And then, yeah, like their
their
service
original
bay or
star
something.
or
yeah.
store. They started there. That's
Oh,
why
that was
I-
their showroom.
That's why I had that ramp to
That's
bring
right.
the cars up into the showroom.
Yeah.
So but it worked out good for
And then
us.
30,000 square feet at Malloy and now 90,000 square
Right.
feet at Teal Avenue.
Right.
So that's like 8 buildings
Yeah.
in 50 years, right? So on average,
Yeah,
you
we kept expanding.
shed your buildings every 6 years or so. Yeah, that's quite a trajectory.
Right. Right.
So David, what do you like? What do you like best about working with my father?
I guess everything. Every day is a learning experience. It's a learning experience not just with the equipment, it's with people. And again, the learning experience I've had with the people is that if you treat them with the respect that they deserve, and you give them the best you can give them every day, and then sometimes you even go beyond that, you get it all back and then some. And I found that working with your dad, it pays out just that way, that your business grows, your friendships grow by treating them as a friend with respect and doing the best you can for them. That's the best as far as sales, word of mouth, that you can get back. You can social media all day long. They can look at a screen, listen to you talk all day long. The best testimony you have is the end result that you have after you do the job. That when it's done, it's operational, the customer looks at it, they're thankful, they got up and running, it looks great, they think it's a hell of a job, and you just keep moving on from there. And the testimony that we have is all the jobs that we've done through the years, big and small, we treat them all the same. It didn't matter if you were your dad, if the guy spent $100 with us or $100,000, still a customer. Still somebody that we have to take care of. Because even that guy that spent $100, he remembers that. He remembers how you treated him. He may come back and spend $200, $300, you don't know. But you treat him with that respect, and that someday he will come back and he will spend more money with you because he realized that what he got, he's not gonna get anywhere else.
Yeah. No
And-
marketing like word of mouth
Word of
after
mouth
strong
marketing.
performance.
It's exactly.
That shows you care,
Yep.
and you want them to succeed. You want your
Exactly,
customers to
because
succeed.
their success is your success.
Absolutely.
You know, if you do a job for them, the best of your capability, and it works out great for them and they succeed, that's your success, and you keep moving on from there. And that's how we've built the business to the years, by just doing that. There's so many restaurants that are not existent anymore that we put together that were, in their day, you couldn't beat them. And half of them we designed on a napkin and sitting in a chair in a bar.
Yeah.
You know, and everything was done with a handshake. Because his trust that he had in your dad to do right by them, you know, to give them a fair price for the job. And they knew we would go out of our way to do the job correctly, no matter what the cost was. And this is where we are because of it.
Yeah, some have come and gone, but on the flip side, we've got third generation customers.
That's right,
now.
we do. I
My
mean-
father dealt with the grandfather,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the father, and I dealt with the father, and now
Exactly.
the grandchildren.
Yep.
We were at the Broadwells this morning.
That's right.
It was like old home week with
Yeah.
David and Buddy and George and Shane all in the same
Yeah,
room. It was pretty neat. All
It was.
the generations of
Yeah, and you think
the
about
restaurant
that.
supplier and the restaurant owner,
Yeah,
hotel owner.
it's, if you think about that, you're coming in, if you look at how many people that, again, we're doing second and third generation, not just the kids involved, but the restaurants involved that we're doing it for.
Right.
How many times have we done, how many times we did Coleman's, for an example? you know, from where it started out with a little neighborhood pub to where it is now, and where his sons are, with the restaurants they have, and so on. And the Broadwells of the world, where they started out with the father started out with a bar, you know, and then down in Oswego, and look at where it is today, and we're still dealing with the same people, you know, second, third generation, but the same people, because of the work we did. They're still with us.
It's fun being part of their success.
It is.
I love it when they call, like they'll be talking to their general contractor or something. They'll be like, "Let me go talk to my kitchen guy." I love being called, you know, the kitchen guy. You know what I mean? You know, what do you guys think? What should we do to succeed in this situation?
Right. And then when you help them out, it's a good feeling that they come to you and ask you.
Yeah.
You know, this is where
You've
the
done
respect
something
comes
right,
in.
right? Exactly.
You've done something right somewhere along the line where now they're coming to you and say, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
It's because they trust you. They trust what you can. They trust what you can do for them because you've done it.
Yeah, it feels like you're baked into their success, and they're baked into our success. You know, we weren't going to make they're the customer, but we also feel like we help them.
Grew up
succeed.
together. You know,
Yeah,
we
that's
became
right, exactly.
successful, and they became
Yeah,
successful.
we grew together. That's right. That's exactly right. Well, it sounds like you teach Tim pretty well, I would say.
Did a good job.
Yeah, you did.
You were a pretty good pupil.
I guess I was. Well, you know, there was a time and I thought, well, you know what? I quit cooking to do this work, and whether they make the right decision or not.
Yeah.
But in all reality, though, through the years, I couldn't have gotten any of this working behind a line in a restaurant. It doesn't work that way. I don't believe I could have gotten anywhere near where I am. The respect I've received through the years, the accolades I've received for people that, you know, big companies, universities, et cetera, who trust the fact that I walk on the job site, they just walk away and say, "You got it. Give me keys to the building. Don't worry about it." Stuff like that you can't get to anywhere else where you feel that they have that much confidence in you and your workmanship that they don't worry about what you're doing. They know it's going to come out right.
When I go out to eat with either one of you two, you guys are like the mayors of the city. You know what I mean? Like every place we walk into, someone comes out of the kitchen and says hello and tells them how great you've done for them. That's got to be a great feeling.
It
yeah,
does.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yep,
and
I
this
like
is
it.
the stuff that you don't get. You're never going to get working as a chef or a line. You get accolades as a chef, yes, depending what grade you are, but not in. I don't think you're ever going to get the volume and the wide variety we got through the years for the work we did and all the businesses that we've helped succeed and put in business. You remember, everyone that's out there, except for the chain stores, which we can't do anything with, but every one of the mom and pops that are out there that have come and gone, we put in business. It's not that they went out because they weren't successful. There are other reasons why they went out, partnership split, et cetera, but they were great restaurants when they were alive.
Yeah.
And we helped them get there.
Yeah, you said they put a lot of trust in my father. My father put a lot of trust in them. You really did finance a whole lot of people who didn't have a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And they remember that too.
Yeah, I try to help them if I could.
Sure. It stings a little bit. We remember some of the ones that didn't pay, but for the most part, it's paid off to trust people. Yeah. I do believe that most people are good, right? They're not out to stick you with the bill.
No.
So we've continued to choose to trust people even when we get bitten once in a while, and I think that's been
You still have to have that trust. You still have to give them that you feel that you can trust them, that they're going to take care and they're going to make sure they're going to pay you. It's not everybody, but for the most part, you still have to work it that way.
Yeah, like you guys were talking about the level of trust, and I said earlier, today some big freight carrier isn't just going to leave the chairs in the front yard. But I don't feel like it was necessarily the good old days. Gerharz equipment still operates that way. We still leave plenty of stuff there not signed because they're our good customers.
Yep.
We still give plenty of credit to people that we might not know all that well, but we feel okay about them.
Yep.
A friend of a friend or something like that. So I like the fact that we've grown, we've gotten bigger. I think Monday our 49th employee starts, but we still kind of operate like Dick Gerharz did in his 1,100 square foot ranch on Drexler Avenue, right? Yeah, I think that's
It goes
pretty
back
cool.
to the concept, like you said, you don't want to have the company that has numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going back to where the company you have, you know your employees, and the people that you do business with know your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it on a friendly basis, and you do it, you can't do it at a handshake, but you do it close to that. Yeah, you still do it with a
You got to
trust.
protect yourself a little bit, but
Yeah.
you can still treat people right.
Exactly. And then if you continue to do that, you keep giving and treat them correctly, keep treating them with respect, they're going to come back. You give them a fair price for what you're selling them, they'll come back. As long as you keep doing that, you'll succeed.
I would
And
agree
that's why
with that.
I look at it. We've done it for years, and as long as you continue, and I continue, I always have. Every customer I go to, everybody I've worked with, I keep doing the best I can give them because that's what they deserve.
Right?
Right?
Whether again they spend $100 bill or $1,000, that's still a customer. They deserve what we can give them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I think what I've learned from you guys is there's a responsibility. These people are really, it's their dream, right, to own a restaurant? And a lot of them are putting it all on the line, right? They're begging and borrowing and pleading for money from relatives and borrowing money from banks to make this dream come true. And they've put their faith in us. We're the first ones on the scene to make this dream come true.
right.
I mean, maybe they're with a real estate agent finding them a spot. But after that, it's us to design their kitchen. It's ours to lay out the spot. It's ours to make sure that the dining room is right and it's efficient and they can get the food out and it's the right equipment for the menu. We take that seriously. We want if they're going to put their faith in us to help them this dream come true, we got to do it right? And
Exactly.
we got to fix our mistakes if we did make a mistake.
If we make a mistake, we fix the mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah, you're the classic mistake fixer guy. All these dumb salespeople keep making these mistakes, and you keep fixing them. But we're, we know that we're not that we can make mistakes, but we're not going to leave people in the lurch.
It's right.
You
And
gotta
then
treat
we
people
never
right.
have. And I
Right.
think that's part of the reason why we are where we are today is because they understand, they know that, okay, they screwed up, but they'll make it right.
Right.
And we have. Whatever the cost is, we screwed up, we'll make it right. And I've done it where I've even done it at night. I've gone back at night, straighten it out. Because I couldn't get it back to it during the day, I've gone back at night and straighten it out because I wanted to make sure the customer realized that, yes, we messed up, but we're going to take care of it.
Just did it this weekend. Not that you're fixing a problem, but Syracuse University wanted you to come back at nighttime after the dining hall was closed to put on the new custom-made shroud that we had to figure out how to do for them.
That's
And we did it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Marty had a great compliment for you the other day. Dad, you'll like this. So we worked on Shine, which is a huge Syracuse University, the student center. They just had a massive dining hall. And Marty said when we went to the first job meeting, the engineer looks over and says, "Okay, we're all set. Dave just walked into the room," which I thought was pretty. Peterson said that. Did you know that?
Yeah. I heard it afterwards.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Like that must make you feel good. But
It
that's
does.
back to what you said. You don't get that. I mean, we love cooks and we love chefs, but I see what you were saying earlier. About,
I got that from him. I got that from Peter Weber. The same thing. He used to tell me he sees me on campus more. He sees his own employees. He told me more times than not. You should have an office up there for me because I'm there more often than that.
I like the other day, Mark Tewksbury, Mark runs the Dome. He's been doing business with us forever. He was there the other day and he said, "Oh, there's Dave. I recognize his boots. Dave's usually laying underneath a counter fixing a drain or something underneaath the
As they're
dome
opening the
equipment."
door for the students to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the last second,
At the last
make sure
second,
everything's right and perfect for them,
Yeah.
and they remember that.
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
yeah, they do.
That's great.
And-
Well, David, we certainly appreciate all the hard work after 48 years, and we appreciate the nice words here today for this podcast. Dad, thank you for any last words, pearls of wisdom for us.
Just do the right thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, customers.